One thing that strikes me in all of this is that this is called the House of Commons. Our job is to come here and represent the common person. And it is so far removed from the common person, this entire debate. But we are dealing with a situation where the Prime Minister of the day is now saying that he regrets the appointment of Mandelson. And I'm not going to get into the whys and wherefores of DV and Strap and CTC and everything else, because my people in Lagan Valley don't know what that means. And a lot of people are banking on the ordinary man and woman on the street not to know what that means.
What's your take on this heated exchange? Who made the stronger case? Drop your thoughts below and join the conversation.
And to stop being curious and to suspend their expectations, because this is all highfalutin serious stuff and we don't really know what that is. Maybe they did do right, maybe they didn't do right, because they're bamboozled. But I'm going to break it down for them. I would say this to the Prime Minister. What was it about the twice disgraced, paedophile-adjacent, self-styled Prince of Darkness that you found so attractive to put into this plum job, not just of government, but of the United Kingdom on the world stage? What was it, Prime Minister, that appealed to you about Peter Mandelson? We still don't have the answer. No. We still don't have the answer. But all I know is that my constituents are disgusted with all of this. And this isn't the first time, it's not the second time, it's not the third time. It has been going round in a merry-go-round no matter who it is. And I am indignant, and I am outraged. And a lot of people in this building are expecting us to no longer be outraged. We'll be outraged. Because if we can't prove that this works, we know he's going to step into the shadows. We know he's going to be out there setting the algorithms. We know who is going to be preying on the carcass of what was a once great democracy, and we've seen other democracies fail. Let's not fool ourselves that the UK is immune from this. And the number one thing we can do within our gift is to show that we still value integrity. And for those reasons, there is not a single excuse that this government can come up with that I can sell to my constituents or myself that I will believe. And for those reasons, I believe that the Prime Minister needs to go, not just for his own party, but more importantly, for the sake of the country.
Dr. Ben Spencer.
What just unfolded in that chamber wasn't a routine parliamentary exchange. It was a full political pressure test, and Sasha Eastwood stepped straight into the center of it without softening a single word. From the very beginning, her tone made it clear this wasn't about procedure, jargon, or carefully polished political messaging. It was about a growing disconnect between the people being governed and the people doing the governing. She set the frame immediately. The House of Commons is supposed to represent ordinary citizens, yet everything she was witnessing and everything she was responding to felt increasingly detached from that responsibility. That opening matters because it reframes the entire debate. Instead of treating it as a technical disagreement, she turns it into a question of legitimacy. Who is politics actually serving? And why does it feel, from her perspective, that the public is being left behind while complex explanations and internal political decisions take center stage? That's where the tension starts building, because once you introduce that framing, every following sentence becomes more than just criticism. It becomes an accusation of distance between power and reality. Then she moves directly into the controversial appointment issue involving the Prime Minister's expressed regret. But she doesn't approach it in a cautious or procedural way. She strips away the political insulation and goes straight to intent. What was it that made this decision happen in the first place? What was seen as acceptable, defensible, or necessary at the time? And why is the explanation still unclear now that scrutiny has arrived? The key moment here is not just the question, it's the absence of a satisfying answer. That silence becomes the focal point of her argument. And instead of allowing the conversation to remain trapped in bureaucratic language, she deliberately breaks it open. She rejects the idea that this issue should be hidden behind technical terms that most citizens will never engage with. That move is important because it repositions the entire debate from complex governance matter to public accountability problem. She is essentially arguing that complexity is being used as a shield and that ordinary people are being expected to accept decisions without understanding them. That's where frustration turns into political pressure. Then comes the escalation. She doesn't just question the decision, she questions the motivation behind it. That shift is what transforms the speech from critique into confrontation. When she asks what specifically appealed to the Prime Minister about the appointment, she is no longer just seeking clarification. She is challenging judgment itself. And when that question receives no direct resolution, it creates a vacuum that she immediately fills with public dissatisfaction, citing the reaction of her constituents and the broader sense of outrage she claims is building outside the chamber. At this stage, the tone of the speech shifts again, from individual accountability to systemic warning. She begins to describe the situation as repetitive, cyclical, and unresolved. It is not framed as a single controversy anymore, but as part of a broader pattern of governance failures that keep resurfacing regardless of which names or parties are in power. That repetition is key to her argument because it suggests that the issue is not isolated, it is structural. Then she escalates further by introducing a much darker implication. If trust continues to erode, something else will fill the space. That is where the speech moves beyond immediate political criticism and into a warning about institutional decay. The suggestion is that disengagement, manipulation, or external influence can grow in environments where public confidence collapses. Whether or not one agrees with that framing, its purpose is clear. It raises the stakes from bad decision-making to systemic risk. And by the time she reaches her conclusion, the emotional intensity is fully activated. She declares that she cannot justify these decisions to her constituents, and that she personally finds no defensible explanation that she can accept. That is not just a political disagreement, it is a rejection of the reasoning behind governance decisions. And then she takes the final step, calling for the Prime Minister to consider his position, not just for internal party stability, but for what she frames as the broader national interest. That is the moment where the political temperature spikes, because calls like that are not routine. They signal breakdown, not negotiation. And then the reaction hits. Dr. Ben Spencer, responding in real time, captures exactly what moments like this do inside Parliament. When a speech lands with that level of force, it forces everyone present into a reactive state. The chamber is no longer just listening, it is processing, recalculating, responding emotionally and politically at the same time. What makes this exchange so significant is not just what was said, but what was not resolved. There are unanswered questions still hanging in the air. There are accusations that were not directly rebutted in real time. And there is a growing sense that the issue being discussed is no longer limited to one appointment or one decision, but something deeper about trust, accountability, and political transparency. This is why moments like this spread beyond Parliament clips and become public narratives, because they are not just about policy, they are about perception. One side presents urgency, frustration, and demand for clarity. The other side responds with structure, procedure, and political defense. And somewhere in between, the public is left trying to decide what feels more convincing. And that is the core tension this entire exchange exposes. Whether modern political systems are still able to provide answers in a way that satisfies public expectation, or whether complexity itself has become a barrier between decision-makers and the people they represent. Because at the end of it all, the question that remains is not just what was asked in that chamber, but why, in moments of maximum pressure, clear answers still feel so difficult to reach.